Are you a pro wrestling fan? Then odds are at some point in your life, you were a backyard wrestler. In this new series, I'm going to take you through how we came from this to this. It's a long story, covering nearly 2 decades. But if you're a nostalgic person missing the backyard days of yesteryear and a simpler time of the 90s and early 2000s, this is the story for you. This is Backyard Wrestling Cinema. Welcome to Backyard Wrestling Cinema Season 6, Episode 1. On our last episode, it was our biggest show of all time, our live show. Right after that show, we found out we had to leave that backyard forever. It was the summer of 2003, and when we first started this thing in January of 2000, we had 3 main goals: to get on TV, which we had done, to perform in front of a live crowd, which we had just completed, and to get a real ring. And we had no idea how to make that happen. But in my head, I started thinking we were getting closer and closer to it. And in preparation for the day we finally got a ring, even though I had no idea how to do it, I started walking every night. I wanted my cardio to be good, even though I don't think walking really does a whole hell of a lot for your cardio. I remember I had this bootleg iPod, and it's when the MP3s first started coming out and they were really popular. And I remember listening to this Eminem song, Sing for the Moment, over and over and over. And I can remember walking around the neighborhood we all lived in. And I remember one time walking around that neighborhood and the moon was so vivid, and thinking about this whole whirlwind we had been on in these last couple years between, starting the show with 4 people on a cul-de-sac in our neighborhood, and now we had a TV show and we had just done a live show. Juxtapose that with the fact that a bunch of our friends were now going off to college. Some were moving away. Tommy Thunder was joining the Navy. So it was this weird feeling, and it's so ingrained in my brain that even to this day when I hear that song, it puts me back in that time. I remember walking up and down those streets, the same streets I played on as a young kid, the ones we used to go trick-or-treating on. In the same development, all of us wanted to get out from and run away from. And yet at this point, people were moving away and going off to college, and everyone was leaving. And all I wanted at that point was for everyone to stay there and for everything to stay the same. It wasn't until around this time that I realized that everything had changed and it wasn't going to be the same ever again. Heading into the live show, I was like the eternal optimist. I just kept thinking, everything's going to work out. We're going to find a place to wrestle. Worst case scenario, we'll go to the soccer field and we'll just set up a temporary ring. We'll do our shows there, run the show's camera off battery, everything else. Or maybe we'd go back to the horseshoe, the cul-de-sac where we all started. And my brain just wouldn't let me realize how different everything was going to be. It was in this moment that I was finally smacked in the face with it, just walking around the development we all grew up in. The day after the live show, we all got together to film some matches. Some of these matches would air before the live show for our TV show, and some would air after the live show.
I'll put it in the shredder, don't worry about it.
That's my mail! Guys, watch out, raccoons! They're everywhere! Raccoons! Raccoons!
Over the years, with all the chaos and all the drama that was going on at this time, some of these matches were just lost to time.
Well, it's not my match, it's Benjamin.
You're an ass.
Come on! You have to rest, Benjamin.
And it was during this kind of off period that I got my first ever digital editing computer. I had learned how to digitally edit back in high school. It's one of the only things I ever learned in high school. I had finally purchased a computer so I could do all my editing digitally. Now, digital back then meant you took a mini DV tape, you took a FireWire from your camcorder, you played the tape, and it encoded it and made it digital on your computer. When you were done with it, you could export it back to your camcorder, take it from your camcorder, put it on a tape, and then give it to the public access building, and they could air the show on TV. So it was an extremely tedious process, but I was glad because I didn't have to go to public access anymore and edit our videos there. The surviving tape I have from this period is the day after the live show, and it was July 14th, 2003. It features a couple random matches, including the finals for the tag title tournament, where Mac and Cheese won the titles, which was a bad idea because Tommy Thunder was leaving to join the Navy, and the people we beat in the finals was the High Rollers, which was TJ Money and Mr. Benjamin's. Mr. Benjamin's was moving to Florida. So no matter what, we were kind of screwed. I really had booked myself into a corner with that one.
B4W World Title on the line. Tommy Thunder versus Rico DMF.
The most important match from that day was the big title switch we did with Rico DMF portraying his character Criminal Cage, and he would win the title from Tommy Thunder.
Why is he wearing a ring? I don't get it. Wait, no. No, 730. Go for the pin. 1, 2, 3. I don't believe. The heavyweight championship.
Afterwards, Christian Greed would attack Rico, or Criminal Cage, showing that their feud was far from over.
Oh, he's super chest. Criminal Cage.
You don't mess with me.
Yeah, what?
As Tommy Thunder left the arena for good. It was a match we all felt disappointed in for some reason, and perhaps it was because it didn't befit the stature that we all felt the backyard had back then. It was like the match didn't live up to this imaginary standard or this great summation to our years in the backyard or something. Looking back, I don't see anything wrong with it, but back then we just didn't think it worked. We filmed a vignette at our public access building where Tommy Thunder left forever, and on his way out, he kicked Christian Greed out of his car. One final kind of joke and vignette. Days later, we all got together and we ripped up the ring, took down the entranceway, packed up all the signs, and we tore down our little arena in our mall development that we all grew up in. And for the first time ever, Brookwood 4 Wrestling wouldn't be taking place in Brookwood 4. Our new home would be the home of TJ Money. And if you've been following this series at all, you know that he and I back in those days had quite the contentious relationship, and it doesn't go well. That's all for this episode. We'll see you next time right here on Backyard Wrestling Cinema.
Oh, the final curtain. Oh. Bubbles is going wild. An old school slingshot. And it works to perfection.
Any words, Coop? You're leaving, Coop. Final words. No final words.
I'll be back.